John Wayne, an American icon. The Duke, a man who held a gun in hundreds of movies, who took down hundreds of bad guys on the silver screen. But on that scorching afternoon in 1965, when he gripped the weapon Yul Brynner handed him, John Wayne's legendary, rock-steady hand began to tremble. It wasn't the weight of the steel that scared him. It wasn't the cold mechanics of the cylinder. What terrified the Duke, what actually drained the color from his face, was the whispered truth Yul Brynner delivered along with that gun. A truth that wasn't in any Hollywood script. Old Tucson, Arizona. 1965. The legendary backlit where the West was won, at least on film. It's 105 degrees in the shade. The air is thick with dust, sweat, and ego. This is the golden age of Hollywood, but there's no glamour here today. Just the relentless sun and the booming voice of John Wayne. In those days, Wayne wasn't just an actor, he was a force of nature. When he walked onto a set, everyone fell in line. If he wanted the sun to stand still, you felt like it might just listen. But on this particular day, the Duke was not happy. During a rehearsal, Wayne ripped the prop gun from his holster and slammed it onto the assistant director's table with enough force to crack the wood. "What kind of joke is this?" he roared, his voice drowning out the hum of the generators. "Don't bring me toys. I'm John Wayne. When I hold a gun, I want to feel it. Who am I supposed to scare with this tin can? It's a worthless paperweight. Get me something with weight. Something that feels like a man's weapon." The crew froze. The prop master, hands shaking, scrambled to find another Colt .45. Wayne grabbed it, weighed it in his palm, and threw it into the dirt with the same disgust. "Light. It's all light. It's all fake. That's the problem with this town. Everything is hollow. Everything is just pretend." Wayne glared at the hundreds of crew members with that signature squint. In that moment, everyone was just an extra in his performance of toughness. Everyone except one. Standing in the deepest shadow of a trailer, a figure in black watched in silence. Arms crossed. Head tilted slightly to the side. His face showed neither approval nor judgment. Just a deep, abyssal nothingness. Yul Brynner. He was in Arizona for another project, visiting the set. But as he watched Wayne's display, something in Brynner's posture shifted. Listening to Wayne scream about reality and weight, a faint, dangerous smile touched the corners of Yul's lips. It wasn't a friendly smile. It was the patience of a tiger watching a grazing deer. Yul moved. He walked with that distinct, gliding step, like gravity didn't apply to him, heading straight for Wayne. The whispers on set died instantly. Two titans were about to collide. The American cowboy versus the enigmatic, exotic stranger. John Wayne straightened up as Yul approached. This was a meeting of alphas. "Hey, Yul," Wayne barked, his voice still loud, still challenging. "You understand? Tell these boys. Tell them how a gun is supposed to sit in a man's hand. They expect me to be John Wayne holding a feather duster." Yul Brynner stopped directly in front of him. Only 3 feet of striking distance separated them. Yul looked up into Wayne's eyes with that piercing, hypnotic gaze. "You want weight, Duke?" His voice was a whisper, yet it cut through the desert air clearer than a shout. "Are you looking for real weight?" Wayne chuckled. "You bet. I want to feel the recoil in my bones. I want to feel the power." Without a word, Yul reached inside his jacket, toward the small of his back. The movement was so slow, so deliberate, that Wayne's bodyguards didn't know whether to jump in or stay put. From beneath the black fabric, Yul produced a revolver. It was old. The finish was worn down to gray steel. The grip was marred with strange, jagged scratches. This wasn't a prop. This didn't come from a studio warehouse. Yul held it not by the barrel, but by the grip, never pointing it at Wayne, but offering it not with professional courtesy, but as a warning. "Take this," Yul said. "This has the weight you're looking for." John Wayne, with all his bravado, reached out and grabbed the weapon. And in that second, time stopped. The smirk on Wayne's face vanished. As the steel settled into his palm, his wrist dipped a fraction of an inch. No, the gun didn't physically weigh a ton. It was perhaps only slightly heavier than a standard issue. But what Wayne felt had nothing to do with gravity. He examined the weapon. The metal felt impossibly cold against his skin. He noticed the scratches on the handle. He realized, with a jolt, that they weren't decorations. They were tally marks. "What is this?" Wayne asked. His voice had lost its boom. It sounded thick, unsure. This feels different." Yul Brynner took a step closer. The desert, the set, the cameras, they all faded away. It was just the two of them now. "What you're feeling isn't the weight of the metal, Duke," Yul said softly. "You're feeling memory." Wayne looked at him, confused. "Memory?" Yul stared out toward the horizon, but he wasn't seeing the Arizona dunes. His eyes were looking back at the dark alleys of Harbin, China, in the 1930s, smelling opium smoke and cordy. 1934, Yul began. North China. We were refugees. Stateless. Starving. In your movies, the bad guys wear black hats and challenge you to a duel at high noon, right? Where I come from, the bad men came while you slept. They'd end you for your shoes, for a loaf of bread, or just for the sport of it. Wayne swallowed hard. The gun in his hand suddenly felt heavier. "This gun," Yul continued, nodding at the antique weapon. "I took this off a fallen Russian officer when I was 14 years old. I had to pry his frozen fingers off the grip." The silence on the set was deafening. Everyone watched as the king of Hollywood seemed to shrink before this smaller, bald man. "You asked for weight," Yul's voice hardened. "The first time I pulled that trigger, I wasn't aiming at a cardboard target, Duke. I was aiming at a man who was breathing, sweating, a man who was trying to harm my sister." Yul locked eyes with Wayne. "I pulled the trigger. The gun fired. And I watched the light go out of his eyes. That weight you feel right now, that is the weight I'm talking about. It's a weight you never put down." John Wayne looked down at the gun as if he were holding something cursed. The light props he had complained about moments ago now seemed so innocent, so safe compared to this artifact of true danger. "Do you feel it?" Yul whispered. "That grip doesn't just hold my sweat. It holds my fear. It holds the survival instinct of a boy. And it holds the weight of the life I took. That is the reality behind the thing you pretend to do." John Wayne did something he rarely did. He looked away. His massive presence seemed to deflate in the face of Yul Brynner's lived experience. Wayne slowly, almost reverently, handed the gun back to Yul. He didn't slam it on the table. He treated it like a relic. Wayne stammered, his voice cracking. I wanted the scene to be believable." Yul took the weapon and, with a fluid, blind motion, tucked it back into its hidden holster. "Believability isn't in the ounces of the steel, Duke," Yul said. "It's in the eyes. If you look at that man and truly know, that pulling that trigger means crossing a line you can never uncross, the audience will believe you." Yul turned to leave. But he paused, delivering one final strike. "You play cowboy. And it's a good game. Keep playing it. But don't ever mistake the toy for the truth. Because the truth is heavier than you can carry." Yul Brynner walked off the set that day, leaving John Wayne standing there with a plastic prop gun in his hand, lost in thought. Witnesses say that for the rest of the shoot, Wayne was different. Quieter. Less showy. When he drew his gun, he did it with a newfound caution, a somber respect, as if he were remembering Yul's lesson on weight. Years later, when an interviewer asked John Wayne which actor he respected most, everyone expected him to name Gable or Bogart. Wayne paused, flashed that half-smile, and said, "I knew a man who taught me that silence is louder than the biggest gun, and that the true weight of a weapon can't be measured on a scale." What does this story tell us? John Wayne was the hero America wanted to see. Invincible, loud, triumphant. Yul Brynner was the face of the real world. Scarred, surviving, silent, and dangerous. Wayne needed costumes and heavy props to play the tough guy. Yul Brynner projected that toughness just by standing there. Because he wasn't playing. He was remembering. One turned violence into entertainment. The other hated violence because he knew its ugliness, yet he respected it as a necessity. The difference was between a line in a script and a scar on the soul. And that day in the Arizona desert, When fiction collided with reality, the winner wasn't the man pretending, it was the man living. Yul Brynner's silent lessons to Hollywood legends weren't just about acting, they were about life. If you want to walk the line between playing and being, and if you want to uncover the true darkness that existed behind Hollywood's bright lights, subscribe to the channel. Because some lessons aren't taught in school. Some lessons are only learned by those who survive. I'll see you in the next video.